Welcome adventurers, my name is Cody and this is Taking 20, a channel about all things role-playing games. So as Dungeon Masters and Game Masters, we all understand that it's important from time to time to give each of our players a little bit of the spotlight. But oftentimes this can be easier said than done when it comes to actually coming up with creative ways in which to do this. So today I'm going to bring you 3 ways that you can use in your game to push your players into the spotlight and give them their moments to shine. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. The first trick that you can use to thrust a player into the spotlight is to use their known languages to your advantage. Scan each of your player sheets and look for a language that only one character knows. Then, build a social interaction where only that language is actually used. The key here is to really encourage your player to sort of go into full interpreter mode. And really, don't let them off the hook by engaging with them with an NPC and then having them turn to the rest of the group and say, okay, I tell you guys that. Continue to engage them directly with the NPC and even use physical gestures to imply that the NPC or other character speaking to them is specifically looking to them for a response. This is also a fantastic trick to use if you're sort of struggling as a GM or DM to get a player to kind of come out of their shell and engage more in roleplay. And don't be afraid to use monster races to help you accomplish this feat. Often elves, dwarves, and gnomes all speak their native language and then in addition they speak common, but it could seem a lot more plausible to your game if an orc or goblin or even a gnoll isn't necessarily fluent in common. This would help you kind of support the case for your game if one player suddenly has to become the interpreter for the rest of the group. And don't worry if you find that none of your players actually know any of the monster languages, you can still absolutely use a traditional race like Elf to help you accomplish this feat. Just because an NPC knows Common doesn't mean that they actually have to speak it with the rest of the group. They might refuse to speak Common because they feel that it gives them some sort of advantage, or it might even be a sign of disrespect. And don't think of it as a way to throw up boundaries or barriers to the rest of your group to make the game more difficult. Use this as a tool to really highlight something that makes a particular character unique, something interesting about them. It's also a really fun way to throw the party face roll completely on its head when suddenly the barbarian's ability to both negotiate and keep a cool head about him becomes a matter of life or death for the rest of the vastly outnumbered players. The second way to shine the spotlight on a player character is to utilize a character from their background. Dungeon Masters, if a player has taken the time to come up with a well thought out background riddled with named characters like brothers, sisters, childhood friends, and mentors, stop and use them. These characters are basically a free tool that you've been handed to both generate side quests for your game and to help shine the spotlight on one of your players. The important thing to understand is that even though this particular player may have come up with and fleshed out all of these characters' backgrounds, now that you are actually involved in the game, those characters are yours to use however you wish. And you can easily thrust a tag-along character right into the spotlight when suddenly they find that their brother Elias has gotten mixed up with the Zentarim or fallen into ill favor with a Pasha from Kalimchan. Or maybe you don't want to completely derail the path that the campaign is currently on with kind of such an urgent matter, and instead have a childhood friend show up with news of a mentor's passing, bringing along some small trinket that the mentor wished them to have or willed to one of your players. This is subtle. It won't change the path that the campaign is currently on and can be a very powerful way to shine the spotlight on one of your players. Not to mention, it's also a great way as a Dungeon Master or Game Master to reward such a player for putting in the extra effort to really come up with a rich background for your game. The final trick I have for you to help shine the spotlight on one of your PCs is to have an NPC take a special interest in one of your players. The key here is very simple. Just have your NPC treat the rest of the group one way and one of your players another. You can have the NPC be particularly interested in some facet of the character like their race or their background. Maybe the NPC has never actually seen a tiefling or a dragonborn before. You could have them bombard the character with a ton of questions about their origin and where they come from, their culture, things like that. And if you have a player that has chosen some kind of unusual race for their character, they probably did it because of its uniqueness, something to help set them apart. This is a great opportunity for you to kind of highlight that and use that as a way to vault them into the spotlight and give their character and the player some attention instead of it just being another fact on their sheet. Or you could always go the route of attraction, having an NPC take a special interest in one of your players. Okay, so while certain jokes may fly free at a table of tight-nip, longtime friends, it doesn't necessarily have to go down an overly lewd path. But it's also okay if everybody at the table is smiling and having a good time with it. And if not, then be cognizant and move the conversation along a little further if you feel that things are kind of getting out of hand. So that brings us to this week's GM Challenge.
GM Challenge!
Take a moment to consider your current game and see if there are any players that might enjoy or even benefit from a little more of the limelight. Try to use one of these 3 tips to help accomplish just that. Then come back to this video and let us know how it went. Or if you have some type of clever technique that has either worked for you in the past or that you're thinking about using in your game, be sure to leave that below as well. I'm always trying to improve as a Dungeon Master, and if you have something that has worked for you, I'd love to hear about it. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. I'll be putting out new videos every week on DM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just hit the subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.